Hello everyone, welcome back to the Learning Curve SG podcast where we talk about anything and everything regarding not just PE but also learning as well. So today we are very happy to have Mr. Benjamin Tan over here who will be sharing with us his experience with regards to the mentoring program that he has gone through with our school. So really happy to have you here, Ben, and we hope that we can gain something out of your experience from your sharing. Okay, so maybe let me just go into the question directly. So I believe you have gone through the 2-year instructional mentoring program with a mentor in our school, and we just like to know how has the instructional mentoring program been for you? How has it helped you actually develop as a teacher within the school, especially during the early years of teaching?
I think for one, the mentoring program was very fruitful for me because through this program, I was encouraged to think more about my learning strategies and to continue to think about ways to engage my students better. So I think a lot of us, when we come into school, there's a lot of things to think about: how to handle the admin, how to actually build a relationship with students, how to better engage our students during lessons. So I thought one of the points in this program allowed me to really think about what are some novel ways I can use with my students, or what are some of the things that I should take note of when I'm engaging my students during conversations.
I hear the word think really loud and clear. Can you maybe share a little bit more on how has your mentor helped you with your thinking process, especially with regards to your teaching strategies, engagement with students, as well as how you can better handle the administrative process of the school? Yeah. So how is the thinking process like, which your mentor has supported you in?
For me, Mary, who was my mentor, actually helped me to see what I needed to have in my lessons. So what our structure would be like would be, we would think of a class or a lesson that I wanted to discuss, and usually what I would do is I'll think about what are some elements I want to include. For example, what are some videos, what are some activities that I would use, and in our following session, we will go through them, the flow of the lesson, to see whether it makes sense, and also whether these activities could engage the students, or how I can change these activities up a little bit. So one example was, I was doing a lesson on sexual reproductive systems in humans, and we were looking at how we can help the students to recall what are the different parts. So through my conversation with Mary, actually, what we came up with was to come up with this game where students labeled a diagram as a team, and together they can help each other to recall as well. So instead of the typical whiteboard recall, I actually got the students to help each other, and it was set in as a mini competition.
Okay. Well, so I hear that during your mentoring process, there seems to be quite a few scenario discussions where you and your mentor imagine what may happen in a classroom, and this imagination leads on to a discussion between yourself and Mary on how you guys can better engage the students in their learning activities.
Yes, that's right.
You shared just now about how students can help one another with recall using a game during that particular example that you shared. Could you maybe elaborate a little bit more how well that particular lesson has gone for you? Yeah, maybe share with our audience a little bit more on the engagement level of the students. Yeah.
I think generally the game turned out quite successful during the lesson. I remember it was an afternoon lesson, and the reason why Mary and I thought of having a game was because we thought, and in the afternoons, the energy level might be a little down, or they might be feeling a bit sleepy after lunch. So getting them to get into groups, the physical movement actually got them a bit excited. And at the end of through the game, what they did was they had to sort out different pieces so that physical interaction with some elements in their hands actually helped to get the excitement going.
Yes.
And I could see the students reminding each other, hey, it's not this part, it's supposed to be the other part, or this function doesn't match this body part.
All right.
So in the process of the game, I saw them conversing with each other rather than just me talking to them. And I thought that was a lot more powerful in terms of helping them to recall. So gradually during the lesson, I think I could elicit more responses during the actual lesson itself when I wanted to teach something related to the parts of the system.
Okay, so it seems to me that the engagement level is very high, and it also seems to me that the conversations that the students are actually having during the learning activity helps with the recall better. Yeah. So, were you able to see that the students indeed have learned that particular topic better? Subsequently, in the next few lessons to come, or during maybe a particular summative assessment, were you able to see that they actually were able to learn better based on what you have gone through with them?
I think in terms of labeling the parts and the functions in the end of year exams, because that topic was taught very close to end of year exams, I think they did relatively better for labeling, which is something that they are not very adept at for other chapters, because usually that involves memory work.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. So I think that helps. I think these kind of activities help with concepts that require a bit more of memory.
Yeah. And I think it ties what you and Mary have actually planned out for this lesson ties in really nicely with the boy-centric education initiative that our school would like our teachers to adopt, because the research from boy-centric education actually showed that more kinesthetic activities, more movement, more conversations with peers, as well as more visual representations of what they are learning, helps the students to make better connection to what they already know and what they are supposed to be learning. Which therefore solidifies the new concepts that they are supposed to learn, as well as not just learn, but as well as apply, which seems to me that it was really effective based on what we saw in the WAs. Yeah. So this was really a good example that I can see that IMP has really helped in terms of developing some of the pedagogical ideas and skills that you can pick up.
Yes.
But would you happen to have more examples of how IMP has helped you develop as a teacher?
I think so far what we've been talking about was the pedagogical aspect. I think IMP also helped me in terms of learning how to engage with my students better.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So I think as teachers, a lot of times when we are having conversations, it's very easy to go into the judgmental mode. We say like, oh, this person did something wrong, or let's just try to solve the problem quickly. I think that is our first instinct. But I think through our conversations and through my own reflection as well, there were certain cases which I thought I handled much better with advice from Mary. So I think for one instance, in terms of counseling, Mary actually also shared with me her own experience that sometimes we just need to pause and put on a counselor hat rather than a teacher hat. So it's about listening to the students and not making any assumptions about their behavior. Yes. So I had a student who was facing a difficulty in terms of going to OBS. So he had a condition, and for me as a new teacher, I wasn't really sure how I should approach this.
Okay.
Because at that point in time, it felt very intuitive to, oh, I just need to solve it, and I just need to tell him, oh, he can go or cannot go. But I think after my conversation with Mary, I got to understand where he's coming from and why he really wanted to go for OBS, which I thought was a very, which I think was very glad, which I'm very glad to have noticed, because if I had gone ahead with my initial approach, I might not have gotten to know that student better. I might not have understood why he wanted to go for OBS so much. So through that, I understood that he wanted to challenge himself, and he himself is actually quite active.
Okay.
It was just that the screening flagged out this issue. So eventually, we managed to get him to clear certain screenings, and he managed to go into OBS, coming back with nice stories, and he told me he enjoyed himself. I think this would not have been possible if I didn't take that listening approach of trying to find out more about what's beneath the surface.
Yeah. So are you saying that if let's say you have let's say you had not consulted Mary, you probably would have taken the teacher approach where you might tell the students, hey, the doctor flagged this out and said that you have this condition, it's better not to go. Yeah. But you listen to what the boy has to share before finding out whether if there are other avenues which he can actually take up, okay, in order to get himself cleared to go for OBS.
Yes.
So I would assume that there was another screening by some specialist,
Yes.
yeah, to get him cleared, right? Okay, okay. This is usually what we can do. If let's say the general practitioner said that, hey, there's certain medical issues that the boy is facing, but if the boy really wants to go, what we can do is to listen to what he has to share, okay, and perhaps seek advice from OBS to see whether if he can go for a second opinion with a specialist.
Yes.
Yeah, to get himself cleared for the OBS program itself, lah. So this is usually what we do. But I think what is more important was you hear out what the boy has to share to understand why he's so enthusiastic and motivated to want to be at OBS, lah.
Exactly. And I think it really worked wonders in terms of interacting with him over the next 2 years, because in his fourth year, which is the second year that I taught him, he was a bit more comfortable sharing with some of the issues that he faced. And I think that wouldn't have been possible if I didn't offer a listening ear from the start. So I think, again, it boils back down to seeing what the needs of the students are.
Correct. Yeah, and there's this good connection that you have made between you and the student. This really positive teacher-student relationship. Based on that particular OBS incident.
Yes.
Yeah, and when the trust is being built between you and the boy, the support to provide for him to help him learn becomes easier.
Yes, that's right.
Otherwise, what's going to happen is that if there's no trust, most likely whatever you say, the particular student will not really want to listen and take up whatever advice you might want to give him. Yeah, which makes our job to support their learning much harder.
Yes, that's right.
Understanding our students, okay, comes with communicating with them, and then within the communication, we need to have some patience to listen to what they have to share also, lah. Yeah, so that we build the trust with our students. Yeah, which will eventually help us, in our work in supporting their learning.
Yes, they become more receptive.
Correct. Once they're more receptive, our job is like 10,000 times easier already.
Definitely.
Okay, maybe can you also share with us what were your beliefs in teaching and learning when you first joined the service? And after these 2 years, are they still the same or have they changed?
I think when I came into the service, I had this. I think what I really believed in is I wanted to try to empower the students.
Okay.
because that's what we all say. Oh, as a teacher, I want to try and empower my students. But back then, as a new teacher, I honestly didn't know how to go about doing it, because empowering, sometimes it comes in the form of words. Sometimes it comes in the form of um, little obstacles that we guide through our students through as well. Sometimes it involves letting them experience what it's like to fail at small tasks, what it's like to succeed at small tasks. So I think for the past few years, I've been trying to see how can I empower my students, not just in terms of words, but in terms of their experiences as well. So in this sense, what I did for my form class back then was I tried to get them to write their goals, and from there, I together with my co-form, I also both of us tried to get them to think about what they could do to reach their goals, rather than saying, "Oh, you just work hard, just study, listen." Because a lot of the students, they come with their own baggages.
Yeah.
They come with their own thoughts. So when they come to school, sometimes they are just not in the right mood yet. So we have to take into account all of that and see how we can best help them to achieve what they set out to do.
Correct. So today, do you still believe strongly in empowerment?
I think I do still believe that, because I think the students cannot always be relying on their teachers. I realize the younger students tend to rely a lot on the teachers for simple things, and even the graduating cohort. I just came from my graduating classes. I realized that some of them are very reliant on me in terms of what to do in an unfamiliar situation. And sometimes it's not that they don't know how to do it, but it's just that they want that additional assurance. So sometimes I'm torn between giving that assurance versus preparing them to be independent. And so on some occasions, I have to intentionally hold back and let them experience it for themselves. So instead of telling them what to do, for example, I was in the lab just now, and there was a student who he made a minor mistake of not topping up his burette with the solution. So what happened was the solution went beyond the readings and he could not read the markings. So instead of telling him what he could do, I used the approach of asking him questions. At this point, I asked him, "So what is the issue here?" And I asked him, "Based on your readings, current readings, what do you think you can do to get to the final answer?" So of course he came up with ideas like, "Oh, I can just estimate, or perhaps I can use a ruler." And so I said, "Okay, yes, you can use a ruler. So how would you use that ruler?" So eventually it took him some time, but he got to the point where he understood what was the process like and how he could troubleshoot. So in this sense, because it was a problem that he didn't encounter before, I allowed myself to step in a bit, but not too much. So I could see him visibly struggling. His face was just, "Mr. Tan, I really don't know how to do this." But I told myself, these kids, they can do it. They just need to be guided, and they also need to be assured that they can do it. A lot of them don't have that confidence in doing it themselves. So I think empowering is something that I believe in even stronger now, actually. And I'm glad that I'm learning other ways to empower my students as well, not just in the classroom, but also in our CCA experiences as well.
What other ways? Would it be possible for you to elaborate?
I think very briefly, so in NCC and the CCA that I'm in, we have this thing called circle time. Sometimes we tell the students exactly what could have been done better, but most of the time we try to let the students identify what is going wrong or what is going right, what can be improved and what can be continued. So I think in terms of that, we are getting them to take ownership, and in getting them to take ownership is helping them to develop that. I believe it helps them to develop that sense of independence as well. So I think when students are independent, it is one of the indicators that they have really grown from someone who is reliant to someone who has been empowered to make a change.
Yes. Yeah, I think I really like your sharing on the NCC training sessions where the leaders within the NCC group were given ownership to actually lead the juniors or those who are non-leaders to reflect on how well the training has gone and what are some of the areas that they can improve on rather than the teacher stepping in and do the debrief or the circle time session. Yeah, because if the students are not given the opportunity to actually lead their own learning, especially in that kind of scenario, they will not be able to develop the critical competencies that will benefit them after they graduate, which I would believe would be the communication skills, their collaboration skills in the CCA example that you stated. As for the example on the situation that the students faced in the science lab, using questions to help the student think a little bit more on what he can do gives him not just the opportunity to exercise agency in the activity that he is learning or he's doing, but it really develops the critical thinking skills that he needs so crucially again after he graduates from secondary school. Yeah. And I can hear very clearly that despite the time that you took to guide the students, it is worth it because the learning becomes deeper. It is deeper because the boy or the student took the time to think through uh, the what, why, when, how of things, rather than just following your advice, and then probably doesn't really think through the reasons behind the advice. Yes, got the correct answer, but is it? Did he really learn? Did he really learn deeply? Yeah. What if the exam question is slightly different during during the exams? What if the situation changes slightly, in the practical process during the exams? Then in his mind he will start thinking, oh, okay, I need Mr. Tan for that advice.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, he probably wouldn't be thinking, what would Mr. Tan ask me? What can I ask myself to solve this problem? So the self-directedness of the student, I think, has been slowly developed during that simple episode which I just said.
I hope so too.
Yeah, but I mean, we always need to start somewhere to plant the seed, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, but I think you have already planted that seed, and the seed has already started growing something already because of the effective questioning that you have gone through with the student. Yeah. But I especially like I wouldn't say hands-off approach, lah, but I would believe it's a more guided approach to allow the students to be empowered to guide the rest of the other students in their learning during the CCA. Yeah, that one I think really built leadership qualities because the communication skills and the collaboration skills of the leaders within your CCA is being developed. Yeah, and then teachers at the side, facilitate the learning of the leaders with regards to these competencies. Yeah, which I think is very powerful.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it was quite a relatively new approach for me because as a student, we didn't really have so much of all these kind of student-led debriefs or whatnot. So when I joined the CCA, I saw how the other teacher officers were doing it. I was thinking, hey, actually, this helps the students to take more ownership of their CCA, take more pride in what they are doing. Something which I think it's very important. So at least they have a sense of purpose as well.
Correct. Yeah, yeah. It's like the development of leadership skills, collaboration skills, communication skills. It's like the lesson within the CCA activity, the real lesson behind the CCA activity. So the activity might be to discuss how well they have done their marching, how well they have actually did the physical activities that they have done that day.
Or how well they instructed their cadets.
Yeah,
as
so
well.
that is like superficially or on surface the things that the boys are learning. But I think the real learning, is the communication that they do, with it amongst each other, and the collaboration that they build, the collaboration skills that they build,
Yes.
yeah, amongst one another as well. Yeah. So thanks for sharing, because we really need to let our students, take more ownership, yeah, in their learning lah.
Yes, definitely.
Yes. Maybe can I just pick your brains with regards to assessment? Because our school has been talking about assessment literacy since the start of the year. And I would just like to know whether you think assessment is important, and do you think that it has the ability to support learning better during our lessons?
I think for sure assessment is important. Definitely has the role to support learning because assessment helps us to see what we don't understand and what we do understand. And in our case, it helps us to also see whether the students understand a certain topic or if you're assessing certain skills. For example, logical reasoning. We can tell whether the student already has that skill or if there is still some room for improvement.
Okay.
So I think that helps us to inform our teaching pedagogies and our teaching pace. For example, do we want to try a slightly more challenging activity, or do we want to try something that's a bit more scaffolded? Or perhaps should we take a different approach altogether? So that's on our part in terms of teaching. And I think the students may not realize it also, but for them, if they review their mistakes,
Yep.
it helps them to see where they are lacking in and where they are strong in. I think a lot of students, when they get back their results, the default mode is look at how much they got.
Yeah.
Is it an A or a B, C, D, or whatnot? And do the corrections, put it one side, only to never see it again. So I think it's a wasted opportunity for them because by looking at those corrections, they can tell what are the mistakes that they tend to make. And a lot of the times, I think as teachers, we have been helping them to identify the mistakes. So right now, I've been questioning how can I get my students to really review their mistakes? Because it's very easy for me to tell my class, please look at your corrections. If you want to study for your WA, make sure you review your mistakes rather than trying to complete as many questions as you can. But for some of them, they are still in that, they're too used to just doing more questions without the act of reflecting on what they did right or what they did wrong. Yes, I think it's quite a difficult thing to encourage, but I definitely think assessment has its role in helping the students to learn.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, because as I shared in my previous episode, I feel that with assessment, it provides the necessary information and data for the teacher to guide their pedagogy. It also, this same data and information also helps the students to lead their own learning. However, if I hear you correctly, you hope that our students can be probably a little bit more detailed in reviewing how they got their answers. Yeah, so they can have a better understanding of where were the steps that they have gotten right, and where were the steps that they didn't got right, so that they can make better adjustments
Yes.
in learning itself lah.
Yes.
And I hear that you probably want them to have deeper understanding in the process of doing things.
Yes.
Therefore, you want them to be more detailed in the review of the things that they are assessing, not just on the final answer,
Yes.
but the logic behind how they derive the answer.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I agree. Some of our students, they just want the final answer.
Yes.
They just want the final answer, but they don't really care about the process behind
itself,
it.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's important.
In fact, I think not just the process of getting to the answer, but the whole process of learning in itself, which is why I try to get my students to reflect after every test. And usually, I mean, some of the questions that I include is, what did I do right this time? Because in one of my discussions with Mary in IMP, she said we don't have to say that failing is a good thing all the time, but what we can reframe it. So if a student if he failed by, say he got 13 out of 30, he failed by 2 marks. So students tend to focus on failing, he failed by 2 marks. But how can I help that student reframe such that he sees it as, I got 13 marks worth
Already.
correct. So what did I do right to get those 13 marks? And what can I do better to push it up? So I try to get them to reflect and write down. I mean, the questions are a bit open-ended, and sometimes students are not quite sure. So when I read it, sometimes I'll write questions for them to think about as well. And I do hope they do look through. That's why sometimes when I return the reflections, I give them about 5 to 10 minutes to just briefly look through my comments.
Okay.
Because it's just a two-page piece of paper.
Okay.
It doesn't take that long, but I hope that through that they recognize they can do something right, and that there is still some areas that they can work on as well.
Do you scaffold some of your questions to help certain students who might not be able to answer the main question?
I think for one, I make some of the questions. I start off with how are they feeling about their results and why, because I think getting them to acknowledge those feelings are important.
Okay, yeah.
Then after that, I write down like what pre-test revision. So what are some of the things they did? But instead of getting them to write down what they did, I have a few options and then others options. So they get to tick or they cross. So I think it's a very good visual for them to see what they did or what they did not do. And then post-test, I get them to analyze their mistakes. So during lessons, I will not just show the answers, but I'll just say, okay, these are the things that you need to look out for. And sometimes after a while, they can identify, hey, it's a careless mistake. Instead of a plus sign, maybe I wrote a minus sign. So they will write careless mistakes, or some of them are honest, they have school activities. So they are having trouble coping. So from there, I get them to do simple tick questions. Then the open-ended questions at the back, I try to make it as specific as possible. So like, what is one thing you think you did right, or one thing you can continue? So usually the first time they see this paper, I will explain to them what are some examples.
Right.
And then after that, what's one thing can do better? Then I will, some of them like to say, I'll study more. So I'll ask them, what do you mean by study more, or how do you study more? Because for some students, they really think just study more. Then I mean, I've had some interesting responses. Like, I will study 3 days in advance instead of the day before. Not the best, but I guess it's some progress. And for that same student, eventually it came to, I will study 2 weeks before.
Right.
And there was some improvement in the results as well. So I try to do it. I try to keep the questions simple. And like the first time I did it, I realized the questions might be a bit too difficult to answer, especially when they just received their WAs. So I tried to simplify it a bit. And of course, not every student is able to give like a very thorough answer. But I do want them to get started thinking about what they can do.
But I like the strategy that you use to ask them to acknowledge how they felt about receiving the results. And I think that eases them into being more willing to express what they can do to improve, why they have gone wrong, what have they done or have not done uh, prior to getting that particular result. I think that really helped a lot, and that is something I also just learned from you today lah. Yeah, which I think I will try on my students next time. Mm, yeah. All right. I think we spoke a lot already, and I think that is about all I have to ask. And would you happen to have anything else which you'd like to share with our audience? Because usually at the end of each episode, I do ask my guests to provide maybe a word of advice, okay, or a nugget of wisdom. But for your case, since you just completed your IMP program, uh, would you happen to have one advice for beginning teachers who are joining our school or are already here in our school today?
I think one thing that really struck me a lot was going back to our whys, the reason for doing things.
Okay.
So I think um, it's very easy to be overwhelmed with programs, with lessons, lesson prep, speaking to students. There are so many activities, and we can all see that these programs are good. But I think when we lose focus of why we do certain things, it becomes like clockwork, and it I think it diminishes our effectiveness. So, for example, why do we do a certain program? Or just bring the students to expose them, or why do we use a certain pedagogy? Because I think it really boils down to the learning needs of the students, and also being able to understand, being able to articulate each reason. So, for example, I'm also part of the CCE committee. I handle education and career guidance a fair bit. So, ECG in itself has many programs in the early part of the in the year, especially for the Sec 4s.
Yes.
So, I think as I was helping out with the planning of all these programs, Mrs. Olsen actually also reminded the committee that we need to go back to the why, and then when we have a very clear sense of purpose, everything it wouldn't be necessarily easier, but we feel more convicted, and it doesn't become a mundane thing. We're not just doing it for the sake of clearing that program or just making sure students do it, but we can see the true value of it.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think in the long term, that helps to sustain us, especially in a career where there's so many programs, so many things to do. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. So if I hear you correctly, audience, we need to focus on the why. Don't lose focus on it. Stay firm in our personal beliefs on education, which I personally believe that every one of us wants the best from our students. And if we are able to understand the deeper meaning to why we do what we do today, it helps to sustain us in this service where it may take an emotional and mental toll on us.
Yes.
But with that firm grounding, these tolls don't feel heavy or they don't feel burdensome anymore. Yeah. So it was really, thank you for sharing this little nugget of wisdom to me and as well to our audience. And yeah, so that's about it for today's episode. And we really want to thank Ben again for his generous sharing. And if you happen to like this particular episode, do give a like, share, and subscribe. And we will see you in the next one. Okay, bye bye.